Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar, and you know what? I'm gonna be honest, man. I think piracy is kind of based when it comes to preserving old video games. Now, before we go into it, I need to address the YouTube community guidelines here, okay? Now, if you go to the YouTube community guidelines under external links policy, okay, I'm already giving them the speech, YouTube, okay? Legal, do not commit piracy, okay? Don't download illegal games, movies, music, whatever off the internet. I'm not even joking here, okay? Piracy is wrong, okay? It takes away a product from, again, don't do it, okay? Just don't do it. It's illegal, okay? It's stealing, all right? As per most countries' DMCA-like policies. But anyways, if you look at YouTube's TOS, they'll tell you you can't link to anything adult. You can't link to any websites that install malware or unwanted software. So no, I'm not going to be putting Bonzi Buddy in the actual, description, okay? It's just not okay. It's not kosher. And of course, links to websites, apps, or other sources that give unauthorized access to audio content, audio-visual content, video games, software, or streaming services that normally require payment. So yeah, it's on the same bullet point as links to websites that seek to raise funds or recruit for terror organizations. Yeah, there's 2 no-nos on YouTube, and you just read them. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, all of the legalese aside over here, I want to talk about video game ownership, okay? Now, obviously, I talk about this throughout my channel's lifetime, but one post that I saw from Peanut Butter Gamer actually really resonated with me, okay? And I feel like with me and him, maybe it's an age thing. We're both older people compared to some of the new young kids on the block, and we come from a time when buying a video game was a physical affair, okay? I remember buying cartridges that I gave blowjobs to just to make them work on the old Sega Genesis, all right? I remember picking up a PlayStation 1 disc going, praying to God that I would see the PlayStation logo and actually be able to play the video game that I wanted, right? I mean, let me tell you, when you're on Siphon Filter 2, Disc 2, and it's not working for a brief moment, you get some heart palpitations when you're that young. But anyways, he said, recently realized I no longer own Minecraft because I didn't merge my Mojang account to my Microsoft account. So he buys the game 15 years ago, like we all do, okay, on Mojang.com, if you're as old as me. And they unpurchased it from me. I don't even know how this kind of thing is even legal. Now, I'll tell you how it is legal. Typically, a lot of these companies have like fucking mega novels of legal work. Like, we're talking crazy end user license agreements. We're talking tons of agreements that pretty much have it stipulated that I guess they can take away the license at any given fucking moment. Now, do I think that that should be legal? Absolutely not. And there's plenty of channels like mine, like Louis Rossman, like, Ross from Accursed Farms. There's plenty of channels, plenty of content creators that understand the value of buying a fucking video game and owning it, okay? Now, before somebody conflates it and says, you don't technically own the game, you own a license. I know I own a license, okay? I know when I purchase a disc to anything, I own a license to use that software. And I'm not conflating it with me owning Minecraft as an IP. I feel like that's a weird conflation that I've seen recently, and I just want to nip it in the ass right now. So obviously, Austin says, the gaming industry is increasingly moving to a future where you no longer own the games you buy. Happens all the time. I can't play my 2-year-old version of NBA 2K because I shut the server. Your first problem was buying NBA 2K. Okay, that was your first issue. But anyways, I'll let that slide. I feel like there should be more pushback on this. There should be, okay? There should be. All right, god damn. Before people go, but Muda, you're crazy, okay? Just get over it, old man. All right, it's a digital future. I wouldn't have an issue with the digital future. I buy digital games, but I wish we had more ownership of our digital media, right? There's a lot of good platforms like GOG where you can pay them $60 and get access to an installer that you can install games to your system and never have to connect to their service, install a fucking third-party launcher, or do anything above board. You can just install, click the exe file, and never have to touch the internet again for a purely single-player experience. Other platforms like Steam don't work that way. Other platforms like Epic don't work that way. And I feel like a lot of people are dumb enough to come into comments and go, well, you buy games on Steam, but you're out here talking about game ownership. Yeah, no, I'm not saying Steam is perfect. It clearly isn't. You know, you can go to GOG and purchase a fucking game, like Fallout, for instance, and own it. You can own the actual, you can burn the installer to a Blu-ray drive and keep that shit forever. You know, I downloaded all my GOG games and stuck them onto my own cloud server, meaning that if I ever need to play games like SWAT 4 again, I can just pull that shit right from my cloud and install it without ever touching GOG once again. So again, when he actually goes down, there were some comments that I found that literally hurt. They sent you a few million emails about it leading up to it, which is true. Actually, Microsoft, when it came to Minecraft, when Microsoft acquired Mojang, they wanted you to effectively migrate your Mojang account to your Microsoft account. Now, I did that, unlike Austin, meaning that my Minecraft purchase from 15 years ago or whatever ends up actually attributing to my Microsoft account, and that's the account that I use to play Minecraft in today's day and age. Obviously, Austin didn't do that, meaning that he had actually ended up losing his account because he failed to actually migrate it, and I'm sure that if he went through the customer service support section, he could, but I would think that, unfortunately, in his case, it might be better for him to just spend the $15 again, or whatever the fuck the Minecraft license is, than dealing with the headache of Microsoft support, or any support team in general. Now, of course, one person says, YouTuber has to spend $30 a second time in 2 decades. What a tragedy. Now, that might be one of the most, I know I can't use that word, brain dead things I've read on the internet. Because here's the funny thing. If you buy a license, you should basically be allowed to keep it, all right, for the foreseeable future. Now, the thing about it is, that's just Minecraft in this situation, but it's one small symptom in a much larger problem. Now, one of the most interesting and amazing initiatives that I've seen in the world of gaming is Stop Killing Games, and I've talked about this for quite a long time now. This is a actual, movement pushed by Ross from A Cursed Farm, a beloved YouTuber who creates some amazing YouTube content like his infamous Game Dungeon series, where for some reason Ross can pull out literally the most obscure fucking game that I've never heard of and show it to an audience of people that are absolutely willing to just consume some of the most obscure games you can imagine. I'm one of them. But here in this initiative, it's a consumer movement where they wanted to challenge the legality of publishers destroying video games that they sell to customers. Now, one of his big videos was talking about live service games being effectively a scam, which is true. A lot of game services that distribute a lot of these titles that are connected to online services effectively have a time limit associated. So I want you to understand this really quickly. Let's say you buy a video game right now, and it's a purely single player experience, meaning that you're not really interacting with other users, or you can play the majority of the game completely offline. Now imagine if the game has an internet connection associated. So meaning that, at some point down the road, the gaming company associated can actually terminate the online services, meaning that the game you buy is effectively useless. Now, that game, The Crew, that we constantly do talk about from Ubisoft as an example of this, is the perfect example. You buy a video game for $60, sometime down the road in the near future, Ubisoft just pulls the cord on the servers and the game becomes an effectively useless brick. Meaning that for people who enjoyed that game, they'll never be able to play it again because their purchase was effectively forfeit. Now, at no point on these games does Ubisoft go out and say, you're not actually purchasing the game, you're actually renting it. And basically, it can effectively be up to us to terminate this game whenever we feel like. We'll give you notice, but once we tell you we're getting rid of this game, there's literally nothing you can do against it. You can't refund it, you can't get some of your money back, it is just effectively a fucking brick. So Ross made Stop Killing Games, which is such an amazing, easy petition that if you go to it, especially if you're in the European Union, guys, it's so easy, you can literally pick whatever country you're in. So if you're in from Ireland, for instance, click on the Ireland section, follow all of these simple steps, and you too can make your fucking, anger known to the government so that they can at least investigate companies like Ubisoft, or really any gaming company, and at least tell them, stop killing your fucking games, okay? Simple as that. It's literally that simple. Now, I guess a really good example of this is what happens when a game is not completed on a disc. So, for instance, if you've never played the new Indiana Jones, Great Circle game, you are missing out on one of the best action-adventure games in general. Not just a great Indiana Jones game, but an amazing action-adventure title. So the thing about this game is, unfortunately, it does not come completed on the disc. So I was actually going to go pick this up for the actual PlayStation 5, but thanks to a channel known as Retro Game Future, he decided to do this himself. Now, if you look at the box, right next to the PEGI rating, you're looking at Conexión Internet Necesarios, meaning that you're going to need the fucking internet to play this game. Okay, so, all right, you might be like, all right, well, what does that even mean? That means if you put this goddamn game in your PlayStation 5 without an internet connection, it installs around 20 gigabytes of content. Now, to give you an idea, the actual Blu-ray disc drive of a PlayStation can store up to 100 gigabytes. So if you just took away those massive HD textures, you could actually fit the entire game on one disc. And if you were Microsoft, you know, the indie company that they are, you could probably also stick a second Blu-ray into this and just have both of them serve as the actual physical media containing the textures and the core game. Plenty of titles do this, games like Cyberpunk 2077, games like, believe it or not, Baldur's Gate 3. A lot of games release with full physical releases where all the content is available for anybody to play if they don't have an internet connection. Now, you might be like, this probably isn't that big of a deal. What is the actual issue? The issue is, let's say 10, 15 years down the road, when PlayStation chooses to axe their servers for PlayStation 5, which they've done for PlayStation systems that are aged, systems like the PlayStation 3, where, again, servers are taken offline, and eventually their online storefronts don't exactly exist for too long. What happens is, now that you have this physical disc, you put it into your system, and you can't even download the updated content to play your physical fucking release. Meaning that no matter where you buy Indiana Jones physically, whether it be on the Xbox or the PlayStation, it is effectively a useless brick. Now, this hurts even more when the game is good. Indiana Jones is an amazing game. And you might be like, but Muda, the discs don't contain the games. What are you talking about? Well, if you go to doesitplay.org, great guys, friends of the channel, these guys showcase an amazing statistic. For instance, 93% of games actually work without the internet, okay? Offline play is enabled. But when it comes to physical media, 74% in the green category means that you can effectively run most physical media without ever needing an internet connection. Now, when it comes to the yellow category, which again is, you know, the no download required, typically that means you'll probably need a download to get some extra content that's not necessarily required to play the game, just maybe like extra, maybe like a level or like some skins. Or sometimes it might be patches that fix performance pretty heavily. Like, technically you could play Cyberpunk 2077 with physical media without ever fucking requiring an internet connection, but that also means you're pretty much putting yourself up to the most annoying gaming experience of your life. In fact, if we really added in the worst case scenario, up to 12% of games are unfortunately requiring a download on their system. And sadly, I feel like some gaming companies are kind of getting a little too liberal with giving us shitty media. Games like Hogwarts Legacy, hell, even games like Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition doesn't even contain the fucking DLC for PS5 users. Like, what is that even? You need a code to access that? Get out of here. Now, when it comes to old games like this, right? Again, the context is if the game does not fucking give a completed... Now, if the game is not completed on the disc and down the road those patches aren't available, I mean, it is what it is. Preserving the game becomes an issue. Now, I started this video off by saying that video game piracy is kind of based in this regard. So, to show you, when it comes to Indiana Jones, this is a cracked NFO from the company Razor 1911. Now, this is a pretty infamous hacking group that's been around since before I was born and even some of you were born. And they actually ended up cracking, again, this Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. So by downloading this cracked version of the game, pirates are able to somehow preserve this amazing title without the help of Microsoft especially. See, they're not giving us proper physical releases, and they're tying this behind online digital storefronts that are fleeting as the years go by. So by having a cracked version available, in some capacity means that, for better or for worse, on the PC, this game is a preserved experience. The same cannot be said for consoles. I mean, what kind of a world do we live in where you have to break the law in order to preserve your games. You know, people say if buying isn't owning, piracy isn't stealing. You know, the thing about it is that, look, there's a lot of people that pirate simply because they just don't want to buy video games or they don't want to spend money and they think they have access to pretty much anybody's like video game without paying, right? And in that case, it's pretty shitty. But if buying video games in the current era is effectively just one giant fucking rental, then how can you not say that piracy doesn't have a world? If the service that we are currently engaging with is so bastardized and predatory against the user, then extreme measures like piracy in this situation are probably the only stopgap to preserve some of the best titles in history. I think it's only software that really has this issue, like video games. Like usually with movies or with music, there are ways to preserve that media no matter what, right? Like you can always screen record all of your Blu-rays and store them onto your hard drives as backups. There's a lot of music that you can just, again, record onto your system or rip audio files and store. But you can't really do that with every single video game, especially when those video games are tied to complete online services that the moment those servers go down, that software is effectively inaccessible. Some of you guys may enjoy the games Destiny 1 and 2, and the problem is because those are effectively tied to online services, without server emulators and some access to the physical media, there is eventually going to be a point where accessing those games becomes completely impossible. You will lose content no matter what. Speaking of video games that literally are alive because of piracy, this is a game franchise known as the Chronicles of Riddick. Now, you probably watched the movies, and I'm not crazy for the movies, but I love these video games. In fact, it's probably amazing and lucky for me to actually own the physical copy of this on my PlayStation 3. But if you're on the PC, literally 18.4 thousand people have asked to preserve this video game. In fact, it's because of an old version of GOG's, version of Escape from Butcher Bay that I was actually able to download and play this game on modern hardware and a PC. Literally through piracy, I was able to actually experience and keep this game alive. No company sells this anymore, okay? Vin Diesel ain't selling it, Midway ain't selling it. It literally is because of video game piracy that we're actually allowed to preserve and keep this game going forward. If this was tied to an online service or some fucking nonsense where the game was never completed on a disc, we probably could never play an amazing title like this ever again. You know, piracy is one of those things where I feel like for a lot of companies, it actually is beneficial, especially for indie titles in certain cases where people can be drawn for excessive sales. So there's a YouTuber known as Seth Zine Talk, which if you've never seen his content, he covers a lot of older PC games. Not just older PC games, but he's just this is a gamer that's like me, okay? He made a video on a game known as Star Sector back in 2019. Now, I ended up watching this video a while back, and this game is a pretty simplistic, it's a pretty simplistic, space game in terms of its visual design, but don't let that hold you back. The amount of content and the amount of things you can do in this world is insane, okay? Want to be an organ dealer? You absolutely can. Want to be a black market god? You can. Want to be an honorable fucking pirate? You can. Want to be a merchant? You can. It's an amazing title. Super open-ended. All made by the smallest of development groups imaginable. Now, the thing is, in his video, he gave his CD key for the game away. Meaning that if you wanted to try this game, and I actually did use his CD key to play the game briefly, probably like 7-8 hours, and I loved the game so much that the next thing I did was just buy my own version of the game. And, you know, if I can just throw out my CD key, I probably will too, just for you guys to grab and play if you want to experience the game for yourselves. Now, the developers for this were super cool about it. They were like, all right, great. You know, these people are playing our video game, and they enjoyed their video game enough to the point that they bought it, like me. Now, I'm sure there's some people that are using Seth's CD key, and they'll probably never buy Star Sector, which is, again, the negative aspect of it. But because of piracy, and because of the awareness raised by this YouTuber alone, with 8.9 million views on this one video game, I'm sure it led to some serious good sales for this group. And again, that's really the key with a lot of successful indie games, right? When there's a mutual, healthy relationship between the audience and an influencer, and again, showcasing this, it can be very beneficial, okay? But the point is, piracy probably did lead to a lot of positivity for this game. Now, look, piracy is a complicated subject, but I really wanted to talk about it in the context of it really saving a lot of modern video games. There's a lot of video games that I enjoy that, frankly, are living on borrowed time, just because of the way that companies are handling their DRM. A lot of online services are being required. There's a lot of, I want to say negativity, right? There's a lot of fear that comes from what's going to happen 20 years down the road when my son is going to be like, or daughter, or what, my children are going to be like, I want to play Chronicle of Riddick. I want to play shit like Star Sector. I want to play shit like Indiana Jones. And because of how servers are operating down the road and how these companies treat, their software and licenses that are handed out to people, it makes me wonder if these games are ever going to be completely available, right? We're long past the days of Super Nintendo, PlayStation 1, where we have ISO files for effectively every single game from entire console generations. We're at a point now where video games are kind of a tough bastard to preserve. And it's only gonna get worse unless we fight right now. And I think the fight is important, especially if you're somebody that really, really, really loves the world of video gaming. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.